Welcome to the show. Let's start today with loyalty and betrayal. Very dark sort of way to start. We know that if nothing else, Donald Trump's base in the Republican Party at its core today is based around loyalty. It's not just the dictionary definition of loyalty. It's based around this sort of perversion or cartoonish version of loyalty in which you unfailingly and unflinchingly support and defend any crazy notion that Donald Trump puts forward. A lot of these Trumpists may be clueless politically. They may have all of the wrong ethical and moral instincts. They may be fine with completely un-American political agendas, but through it all, impeachments, indictments, everything in between, Sharpie, hurricane maps, they have stood by Trump. They see him as their champion who is fighting against the so-called establishment, whether it's the deep state or the fake news media or whatever the case may be. They are all in. But there may be a betrayal coming that they have no idea about and could not possibly see. Because the reality is that many of Trump's planned policies and actions for his new term might hit his supporters the hardest. We've talked about this before. We're talking about betrayal on taxes, on healthcare, even on Social Security, policies that could end up, likely will end up, hurting the very people that are cheering Trump on. Remember Donald Trump's big 2017 tax cuts, which were hyped up as helping the middle class? But what actually happened? It was the wealthiest Americans that got the biggest benefits, while many of his working class supporters saw little or no impact, and the deficit completely exploded, which if you believe that an explosive deficit is bad for the middle class, then it was very bad for the middle class. So now Trump is coming back. He wants to do it again with another round of tax cuts or extensions. And who do you really think is going to benefit? His core base certainly is not. Economists are warning that this is going to explode the deficit again, potentially forcing cuts to federal programs that many of his supporters rely on. Now, the funny thing is, they brag about cutting federal programs. They brag about eliminating entire governmental departments. There are two contradictions there. Number one, we'll talk about it later. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will be co-chairing a new government department for efficiency. They are building a department to cut down departments. I know it doesn't make any sense. But more importantly, even though a lot of these Trump supporters loyally stand by and salute and say, yes, sir, cut the programs, they themselves will be hurt by the cutting of the very programs that they cheer cutting. It's not exactly a big win for the MAGA crowd, who are counting on stable federal assistance in what might become tough economic times under Trump. I hope they don't. I hope Trump succeeds. I hope the economy is good. Then there's healthcare. Trump's been promising for years he will protect people's access to healthcare through some big, beautiful replacement to Obamacare. His first administration consistently undermined the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. MAGA Mike Johnson, the current Speaker of the House, admitted shortly before the election Obamacare will be gone if Donald Trump wins. And millions of Trump's own followers could lose coverage entirely if Trump gets his way. Who is going to get hit the hardest by the healthcare policies they voted for? It's the people who voted for it. It's the MAGA voters in rural areas, many of whom depend on affordable care plans or Medicaid for their healthcare. They cheered Trump's promises, cut this, cut that, but if he gets his way, they're going to be left in the dust. And then we did economic policy, we did healthcare policy, now we get to Social Security, and this is a really big one. Trump has hinted at plans to defer some payroll taxes. Sounds very good. Hey, if you cut my contribution to Social Security, that sounds like a beautiful thing. Of course, those are the very taxes that fund Social Security. Without the funding, the Social Security Trust Fund could dry up, and it could dry up quickly, and it would start to put future Social Security benefits at risk. Now, I have to mention in talking about this, a lot of these Republicans want to hurt Social Security. What they really want to do is justify privatizing Social Security. And much like they want to privatize education, so make public education really bad, that makes the case for privatizing it better. They want to privatize Social Security. Well, one of the best ways to convince people it should be done is by making Social Security not work. In the meantime, however, it's Trump's own voters who are going to suffer. Millions of his supporters, including people close to retirement, could face reduced Social Security payments or delayed benefits because of the very cuts that Donald Trump wants to do. This is a betrayal, and it's a betrayal that is very much going to sting. So there are really two parts to this. First, is this what MAGA signed up for? Many of his supporters put their trust in Trump to drain the swamp and protect their interests, and everything he does is going to be so good for them. They are the ones that are going to get crushed. But then part two is, will they realize it? And this is always such a disconnect with so many voters in general, but in particular with these low information MAGA voters. Remember that after Obamacare was passed in 2010, many Republican governors opted out of the Medicaid expansion. This was part of Obamacare. It was offered to states. Many states said, no, thank you. Republican voters in those states who said, wait a second, they did Obamacare and I don't have health care, it must be Obama's fault. The real blame should have fallen with their Republican governors. Their governors rejected the Medicaid expansion, and yet they blamed Barack Obama. So the point here is, even though Trump is almost certainly going to betray these people, just like he did in his first term, even though they are going to suffer as a result of the things that Donald Trump is going to do, if he does them, because Trump makes many promises that he doesn't actually keep, sadly, tragically, unfortunately, they will probably find some Democrat to blame it on. Something Obama did 12 years ago, something Joe Biden did before leaving office. What about Kamala? Maybe they'll blame Kamala or something like that. Kamala Harris, of course, not even involved in much of the stuff that Republicans love to blame her for. So yeah, Trump is going to betray them. They don't see it coming, but the craziest part of it all is they may never realize that it was as a result of the guy they voted for that they will end up suffering. I hope it doesn't happen. I don't hope for the failure of presidents, and I don't hope for the misery of other people. But it's what may happen, and we will be ready for it. Many of us have bad habits we want to kick. Finding motivation can be hard, especially when life gets heavy and the bad habit seems to be what's keeping you sane. Thankfully, Fume is here to help you prioritize your health in a way that will not disrupt your daily life. Introducing Fume's award-winning flavored air device that is quickly becoming the leading alternative to smoking and to vaping. The point of Fume is to satisfy the hand-to-mouth fixation of some of these bad habits, which makes healthy change feel even easier. The Fume device is sleek, it's sophisticated, you can fidget with it. There is no nicotine here, only natural ingredients like plant extracts and oils. There's no electronics. There's no vapor. There is an amazing selection of flavors, from the popular crisp mint to the adventurous black licorice and cinnamon hearts. Fume is delicious. It's subtle. You can keep using it without feeling overwhelmed. So start your journey today. Go to tryfume.com and use the code PACMAN to get a free gift with your journey pack, which includes a Fume device, 3 core flavors of your choice, and a cleaning kit. If you are struggling to get rid of that bad habit, try Fume. The link is in the description.